The chairman and editor-in-chief of This Day Arise Media Group, Obaigbena, wants 25% of the national budget allocated to the military to boost its operational efficiency in fighting insecurity. Obaigbena harped on the need to leverage technology in fulfilling the military's constitutional duties. He spoke at a civil military operations media forum in Makurdi, the Benue State capital. Theophilus Tiav reports.
This event brought together Nigerian Army officials and media executives. The Army's non-kinetic approach to addressing insecurity also includes promoting national development, peace building and community engagement, as highlighted in this media chat held in Makurdi, Benue State, north-central Nigeria.
Where our troops operate.
In his keynote address, as a special guest of honor at the 3rd Nigerian Army Civil Military Operations Media Chat in Makurdi, Benue State, Chairman of Arise Global Media Group, Chief Obaigbena, called for an additional 25% budget allocation, not only for the military, but also for the education and health sectors.
We have to ensure that our armed forces are properly funded. I call for at least 25% of our national budget for national security and the armed forces. And that budget will include technology. The world we face today, we have a national satellite company, we have all sorts of agencies in science and technology. Are they working with the armed forces? Have we integrated our satellite capabilities with our war in the Northeast or the Northwest? We have to look at national security as a whole of government approach. Have the entire infrastructure, tech infrastructure, combined with the Army. And the Army has to also produce its own weapons. So we have to integrate our whole defense infrastructure, which are technology infrastructure, to keep us safe and protect Nigeria from the new world order.
Chief Obaigbena further urged President Tinubu's administration to consider reducing taxes as a strategy to stimulate economic growth.
Nobody knows what's going to happen with crisis in the Middle East, crisis in Ukraine, a possibility of a Trump presidency. Are we ready? Are we ready to keep our peace and get ourselves going? So those are some of the stuff for the armed forces. And if I say we need 25% for the armed forces national security, then we also need another 25% for education, especially in the north, where we have to get our people educated. Another 25% for health and poverty. We have to support the most vulnerable in our midst. And then we have to reduce taxes across the board. Put people's money in their hands. They will grow their own food. They will find their own transport. And they will sort themselves out.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja, represented by the commander of the 4th Special Forces, Major General Henry Nza, underscored the media's role in shaping public opinion, keeping citizens informed, and fostering national unity.
As the Nigerian Army enhances its efforts towards national security objectives, recognizing the media's pivotal role in shaping public opinion, informing the populace, and fostering unity of purpose cannot be overemphasized. The Nigerian Army remains committed to protecting law-abiding citizens and their civil liberties. At the same time, the media serves as a crucial link between the military and the public, ensuring accountability and fostering mutual trust.
The conduct of the Nigerian Army's non-kinetic lines of operation is geared towards securing the support and cooperation of the civil populace as we carry out our constitutional responsibilities. The people's support and cooperation are crucial to our operational effectiveness and successes. Therefore, we believe the media is a critical medium through which we can reach the people.
The collaboration between the Nigerian Army and the media is seen as a significant step toward building a more transparent and peaceful society.
All right, no lies or no, I mean, he's just spoken the truth there, and he's been quite consistent on not just spending on the military, but also ensuring that we address poverty levels, education levels, particularly in the north. Your take on this story, Rufai?
I mean, what he said is very apt. At first, he talked about the fact that the military should face the bandits and not this harassment of protesters, which is very important. Because you see, you need the support of the people to be able to run a very strong military. It's not only about weapons. The people will come with information and intelligence. How can they trust the military? In a country where protesters are languishing in jail for protesting on their rights and the failures of the government, and TikTok bandits are playing everywhere, you can't build a country that way. He also talked about the fact that the military needs the media. And the media, too, will also amplify the works of the military. The media is in support of the military, and they can see this support. It has to be said, and he told the story of Omenka that was going after the media, and it got to a point when Omenka needed help, he came running after the same media that he victimized. And you will always get your comeuppance one way or the other, so you need to be careful. As regards international warfare and international happenings as it cascades down to us. It's true what he said. Look at the war in Ukraine, largely fought by drones. The might of the Russian army, who would have thought that the Bayraktar from Turkey, the Turkish drones, would do a lot more work? And that's why we're calling for funding the military. DICON should be the panacea. He asks questions like why we see important bullets, why can't we make our own armory here, and many other questions. Yes, we're doing some of them. I could have thought some other companies in the ecosystem like Proforce and the likes, even Innoson at some part was minting some parts, for military hardware. But we need to make it a whole lot better. Most of the fighter jets are adaptations of, the Russian MiG jet, by the Pakistanis and all of that. How can we produce our own jets here? These are the questions we should ask. And that will only come with a lot of investment. The last administration, I think Hadik Sirika said he was talking to a company from Hungary that was going to help with assemblage of planes or making of planes in Nigeria. It was just audio. We never heard anything.
All right.
He also talked about heavy investment in education and health. Take, for instance, today, they were talking about the fact in the papers that 50 million Almajiri kids roaming the street. That's building an ecosystem for the troubles of tomorrow. We need to get those kids off the street, invest in education, refurbish the education system, get the out-of-school children back to school, and help them a great deal. Health is also important. The social factors. Look at what the United Nations is talking about at this future global agenda. It's about health, education, and the social parameters. We need to invest in them. So very well said.
Well, here we are. Let me quickly go through the main points as they are. Prince Nduka Obaigbena was speaking at the Nigerian Army Civil-Military Cooperation event in Makoti. And they made a number of points. Let me address some of those points. One, he's asking for a whole-of-government approach. Well, that's a no-brainer. Section 14, sub 2B of the Nigerian Constitution says, the responsibility of government shall be the security and welfare of the people. What he did in that regard is to remind government that, look, all this interagency rivalry that they have is not helping Nigerians, that they need to work together. If you have satellite operation, you have this, you have that. If you work together, maybe this will be a better place. And that was why he used the phrase good governance. So as for whole of government approach, we expect government to function with regard to security. The other side of that is what former Chief of Defense Staff appointees have referred to as all of society approach. That's the interface of whole of government approach. And the whole of government approach simply means that society, individuals, communities also have to play their own role. Number two, Prince Nduka Obaigbena was, president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, apart from being a major player within the media space in Nigeria for decades. Now, he is saying that the military, they need the media, and he cited the special example of Colonel Franco Menka, who once detained him at DMI, and he had to run into exile. And then at the end of the day, the same Omenka came to him to ask for help. I need to finish this story about Omenka, what it means, which is the point that Prince Nduka Obaigbena was making, is simply that, look, this collaboration has to be on both sides. Those who are in the military should know that the armed forces will also need the media. And it's not a message for the armed forces alone. It's also a message for other segments of society operating inside the government. Number 3, he was talking about 25% for health, education, and the military, where I don't know whether budgeting is the main issue. Because whatever percentage you put across, yes, health, education, security, they are important. But at the end of the day, the core issue is about budget performance. Number 4 is the issue about using the military to protect civilians, to look for kidnappers, to arrest protesters. Yes, the Constitution in Section 271 sub C says that the military can be called in aid of civil authority. But the problem we have had in this country, which I've written about several times, is that, look, they are doing police work for the most part. And the core functions of the military under Section 217, have been pushed to the background. So all these are relevant issues that, can generate further discussion within the space. But General Taurid Lagbaja made a point about responsibility of the media, because it is also about the media reporting with accuracy and being responsible. If this is an important subject, I think we need to reiterate all these issues.
So the Civil Military Affairs Division of the Nigerian military, was set up to improve relations between the military and civilians, as the name suggests. And this was done post the years of military rule, where, if you recognize, there's been that sort of mistrust, distrust, fear, if you would, between military and civilians, and for good reasons as well. And occasionally, they have events like this where they engage with not just the media, but civil society organizations. They're able to interface and see how both parties can work better together, synergizing efforts, in the best interest of the country. And it was on this platform that the chairman this day, Arise Global Media Group, was invited to give, as you would see, the keynote speech. And he used the opportunity to address a few salient points. Since we've talked about the kinetic efforts of the military, I would focus on the non-kinetic efforts, because he was able to put them together in making his point as to how the military can better serve Nigerians. Now, the first thing he talked about was, in addition to a 25% budgetary allocation to security, Nigeria's budgetary allocation in the last year was the biggest spend in recent times at $3.2 billion. And this is compared on the sub-Saharan African side of the continent as number 1. However, still lagging behind a country like Algeria on the wider African continent front. If you look at how much other countries, bigger powers, the US, China, Russia, would spend on their military, it is minuscule. However, still doing well, and we can still do better. But it's that investment in other parts that have an impact on security in Nigeria and on Nigerians. Education, for one. Recall that when the Minister of Information paid a courtesy visit to Arise News, the chairman had also spoken about the importance of not neglecting the North. And we saw what happened during the End Hunger protests and how things quickly escalated in that part of the world. And we saw that if we don't address the Hydra monster of lack of education, of poverty, we have a ticking bomb on our hands. And so whilst we look at investing in the military, it's not enough. The UNESCO recommended percentage of budget for education is 26%. So he's not far off the mark in asking for 25%. And then, of course, looking at health and poverty. If we don't address these areas, we can spend a lot on the military, but we will not touch the root cause of some of the agitations or some of the incentives for young people to go into, banditry, to become terrorists and the like. So very well said, very well highlighted, and just emphasizing the point that we work together. We are not the enemy of the military, neither is the military supposed to be, antagonizing the media. We work together for a stronger nation. And so I think this is really important, and talks like this hold periodically and should be encouraged so that we're able to have robust conversations and, most importantly, take the conversations forward to action. I'll move on to our next story today, and it's on a very sad note. As Pastor Mrs. Patience Umueno, the First Lady of Akwa Ibom State, has died after an illness. Inni Ememobong, the State Commissioner for Information, announced the First Lady's passing in a statement issued in the early hours of Friday. The Commissioner said the First Lady died on Thursday in a hospital in the presence of her family. He said in the release, further details will be provided in due course, while expressing the appreciation of Governor Umo Eno to those who stood by the family in this period. From us here in Arise News Channel, we extend our condolences to Governor Umo Eno. May her soul rest in peace. Very sad news there. Quite sent shockwaves, I'm sure, not just in Akwa Ibom State, but also across the nation. Just a few words before I and Dr. Abati, before we round off.
Our condolences. Yeah.
I mean, our condolences. We can only just pray, one, for the repose of our soul, and secondly, we can only just pray that God be with the governor. It's a very tough one, losing a very dear one, much more a spouse at this point in time. But we can just only pray for consolation, and we pray for healing, and we can only rally around and give every support possible at this point in time. And we also pray that it is well with the people of Akwa Ibom State. Absolutely.
She's known for her philanthropic endeavors, including her feeding initiative. And of course, we've seen how her and the governor seem to be quite, showed a united front a lot of times when they appeared in public. So we pray that, that God will comfort the family of the governor and their children.